One thing I definitely have noticed, and this was the point I was going to make before we talked about the oppressive patriarchy. I wanted to talk about the mindset of the DC fanboy and how it's changed drastically in the past couple of months. You remember back earlier in the year, a lot of DC fans, there was that big announcement that, oh, you see all the solo films are going to be coming out, they're building stuff up. A lot of DC fans have kind of shifted their position towards wanting this stuff to be built up, even if it's going in a reverse order, to just getting everything in one movie. I think we can kind of attribute that to the whole, you know, all flash and no substance. You want to see Batman and Superman fight in a movie. You want to see Wonder Woman. You want to see, just revealed today, Doomsday, just because they're in a movie. And this is a very dangerous mindset to have. And Danny and I spoke about this extensively one night in a conversation about how this could effectively burst the superhero comic book movie bubble that we're currently in right now. Do you want to speak a little bit on that, Danny?
Well, yeah. The thing about superhero films and the reason that they worked as well as they have, if you look at them historically, they really have not done terribly well. You have a few exceptions. You have the first two Spider-Man movies did perform well. The third performed well at the box office, but the reception was very poor. You had the Batman films. The first Batman movie did well. The second Batman movie did okay. The third and the fourth, not so much. Um, I mean, they didn't do horribly, at least not the third, but not as well as they had been doing. Um, and then you had the reboot, and the original Batman Begins actually did not do near as well as the other two. But historically, they have not done well. Look at, for example, the original Fantastic Four films. Superman movies only did as well as they did because they were like some of the first big budget superhero movies ever made. And even then, frankly they haven't aged well, and only the first two are really considered to be any good. Um, you look at like the Phantom, you look at Jonah Hex, you look at when you try to do a lot of these standalone films, or when you tried to do a lot of comic book films in general, they would kind of fall flat, or they would just be mediocre performances, and the studio wouldn't consider it worth the budget it took to make them. But then what happened when Marvel came along was they had an idea. What if we were to try to bring all our properties back under one tent and do something that hasn't been done before? Instead of having all these different heroes with all these different movies and all these split up, separated universes where we're limited, what if we brought them all together in one? And that would infinitely expand the possibilities we can have. It would expand the villains we can use. It would expand the story arcs we could tell. And it was something that had not successfully been tried before, and it wound up being incredibly well received. People liked the idea going into it. The movies going into it were pretty good. And then when you got to the Avengers, well, nothing like it before had ever been done. So people were extremely excited, and everything's been kind of coasting off that since then. DC's kind of coasting off the Dark Knight and how that did, and they kind of tried to make Man of Steel in its image, even though they denied they were. You can see the influences
Right.
of it, which were kind of a downside, but didn't really kill the
Yeah.
movie. But I really wanted to see less of that in the next movie. But now that it seems like everybody is trying to put out superhero movies, you're getting superhero TV shows, you're getting more superhero movies. Fox is going overboard with the X-Men. They're not just doing X-Men movies. They want spin-off movies. They want spin-off TV shows. They want the whole shebang. Marvel has, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on TV, and they're going to have a Damage Control soon, which, for those who don't know, is a comedy about the people who clean up after the superheroes. And DC, they got Arrow, they got the Flash, and at least one of those is good. They have Gotham too, which we just
It's
we
it's
don't
a, it's
talk.
a
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. We're not going to get
And
into
there's
that,
Supergirl,
but
of course, which I haven't seen and
yeah,
I can't comment on it.
but see, that's where we have a problem in and of itself, because there's so many TV series and none of them are connected, even though they could be. that and it's confusing people because they're already thinking, wait a minute, why is this guy playing the Flash in the movies when this guy's playing the Flash on TV? Why aren't the TV shows connected to the movies? This doesn't make sense to me. I thought they were. Other people don't know they're not connected and think that it's kind of contradictory. I mean, there's just all kinds of confusion, and they're going to be putting out, what is it, like 3 of them a year?
Looking at the projected release, it's going to be something like that, something to rival Marvel's release schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be, the people are just going to get so sick of superhero movies so fast that it's just gonna the bottom's gonna fall out and we're gonna be right back to where we were in the early 2000s.
Yeah, that's something I think a lot of people don't realize. I mean, they look at the success of modern superhero movies, even going back to something like an Iron Man, which did spectacularly well for a character that really wasn't too well known in the mainstream. A lot of superhero movies barely made their budgets back. Sequels were always up in the air. So what Marvel's done has always been, again, we may sound like fanboys, but they did pave the way for a lot of these things. They've kind of, I guess, future proof. Not, I don't want to say future proof, but they've made it so there's an added interest in going to see these movies if these characters are all connected. Now, the thing with DC, and this is what I never understood. They have the legacy, they have the lineage, they have the characters that I'd say, to a pretty good degree, if they were like releasing movies around the same time, I would think that provided the movies were the same level of quality, more people would go see a Superman, a Batman, a Wonder Woman, even a Green Lantern over something like an Iron Man or a Thor or Captain America. I think just because DC has a really good success, good track record, with cartoons and just getting the public perception up there for their characters. But with the movies, to me, it just seems like, listen, we got 4 years to catch up with Marvel. We're going to try to introduce everyone in here by putting them in every single other person's movie and then introduce them in their solo movies down the road. I mean, for Christ's sake, Wonder Woman is being introduced in Batman v Superman as, well, they call it a cameo, but we know it's going to be a full-on role, and her movie is coming out like a year after the movie. It's so weird how they're doing this reverse establishment. Like, you're going to be in this movie for like 10 minutes, and then we're going to put you in your movie that's going to explain your origin, and it just... I don't understand what they're going for. A lot of people are saying that, and you hear this a lot, like, listen, they cannot copy what Marvel did. They can't replicate their success because no one's going to want to go see it. I don't think that's true. I think that the majority of people, if they wanted to see a legit DC universe build-up, they would. If we had a Man of Steel, followed by a Batman, followed by a Man of Steel 2. Heck, you could even do a Man of Steel, a Batman, and then Batman v Superman, and I think the public would have loved it more than they are now. Like, the only reason I think people are liking it is because the novelty of the factor, and that's what DC and Warner Brothers are banking on. They're banking on the fact that this has never been done before. Batman v Superman. They've been trying to get this off the ground for 10 plus years. You guys can go look at the Wikipedia page and look at the history behind, Batman and Superman in film and trying to bring them together. It's been a really long process, and we really did dodge some bullets. But, it just comes down to the whole instant gratification factor. It comes down to, you seeing this and it looks cool, it looks awesome at first, but when you look into the deeper picture, how long is this going to last? Like, we can't keep doing this time in and time out. And that's my biggest concern, because it just comes down to the whole, I think you coined it best, all Batman, no substance.
Oh yeah, it's that. I mean, that's basically the whole reason they're rushing right to this movie. Man of Steel, they were expecting to do exceptionally well, and in the end, it did do pretty well, but it didn't do the huge numbers that the Batman films that they had just made had done. So what do? They go out, they cast a Batman, they put a Batman into this movie, and they're expecting it to once again make bank. And in fairness, it probably will, and they'll make a good chunk of money off it. I'm sure they will. I mean, even if the movie's terrible, people are going to pay to see Batman and Superman together on screen for the first time. So, I mean, if only for the novelty of the event, people will see it. But um, I'm a little afraid that in order to achieve the short term gain and the short term boost, they're going to sacrifice long term quality.
Yeah. They're definitely sprinting instead of pacing their way with this universe. And it's evident when you see the amount of movies that Batfleck has signed on for. Guys, this is not us speculating. This is not us saying that, oh, they're just doing this because of this. No. When you have an actor cast in this universe and he signed on to literally, what was it, 13 movies in the DC?
13 appearances as Batman.
13
Yes.
appearances from now until, like, let's just say 2020, when their phase is over. 13 appearances, you know, counting, like, let's just already take a Batman trilogy into account, counting the Justice League movies. That only accounts for half. So this dude is going to be in every other movie just as Bruce Wayne. Just as Bruce Wayne, because they want people to fill butts and seats. Like, it's just, okay, I get it, you're trying to build up your universe, but Batman in every single solo movie? Like, you don't see Robert Downey Jr. walking into every Marvel movie. You don't see Spidey swinging through Daredevil. Actually, that'd be a really good idea. But you get the point. You get the point of what I'm trying to say here.